Okay,
Tell me when you're ready.
we're ready whenever you guys are.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bruce Jolly. I am the attorney for the City of Fort Lauderdale Nuisance Abatement Board. We are here tonight for the Nuisance Abatement Board meeting for 11/12, that's November 12, 2020. Currently, we do not have a chair or vice chair, so I will be, at least at the beginning, conducting the meeting. The first order of business on the meeting, of course, is to call it to order, which I am now doing, and to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Detective Maniatis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Bridget, do you have the agenda in front of you?
Yes, Mr. Jolly, I do.
Would you, there's going to be a minor change to the agenda. We're going first to item number 3, the roll call. Would you please call the roll for attendance?
Yes, sir. Howard Elfman.
Here.
Thank you. John Foreman.
Here.
Joel Slotnick. Is Mr. Slotnick here? Oh,
I was on mute, sorry, I'm here. I was on mute, sorry.
oh okay. Thank you. Glenn Lindsay.
Here.
Robert Fanouth.
Here.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum and everybody is present.
With the roll having been called, a determination of quorum being made, the first order of business, item number 2 on the agenda, is the election of a chair. With that, I open the board for nominations for chair.
I'll nominate John Foreman.
Are there any other nominations? Any commentary? With that, Bridget, would you be kind enough to call the roll?
Of course. Mr. Elfman,
Yes.
Mr. Foreman,
You can
Did I
vote.
say yes for myself?
You can. Or you could say no. I mean,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Mr. Slotnick,
Yes,
Mr. Lindsay,
Yes.
Mr. Fana.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's unanimous.
with the unanimous vote, Mr. Foreman, you are now declared chairman of the Fort Lauderdale Nuisance Abatement Board. If you will permit me, I will open the board for nomination and consideration of a vice chair.
Absolutely. Proceed.
The board is, the nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Howard Elfman for vice chair.
Any other nominations? Any commentary? With that, again, Bridget, would you call the roll?
Sure. And Mr. Elfman,
Yes.
okay. Mr. Foreman, Chair Foreman,
Yes.
Mr. Slotnick,
yes,
thank you. Mr. Lindsay,
Yes.
Mr. Fana.
Yes.
Okay, that again is unanimous. Thank you.
Again, by determination of unanimous vote, Mr. Elfman, you are determined, you are elected as vice chair. That item number 2 of the agenda is concluded. And Mr. Foreman, I turn the meeting over to you as chair.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr. Jolly. All right, so I guess let's go ahead and jump right in here. Appreciate everyone being here. Finished up the roll call. So could we get a motion to approve the minutes for October 8th, 2020?
Motion to approve.
Could we get a second?
Second.
Excellent. Do we need to go ahead and call roll for that?
No, voice vote.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the first item here of the evening, case number
Well, there has to be a vote.
2009.
Chair Foreman,
Go
there
ahead.
does need to be a vote though. Bridget, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
All in favor of the approval of the minutes?
Aye.
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 Without opposition, the minutes have been approved.
Thank
Chairman Foreman, please.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mr. Jolly. All right. So let's go on to the first case of the evening here. Case number 0902, sorry. 3031 West Commercial Boulevard, Hometown Studio Hotel. Go ahead, Detective, with the status hearing.
Paul, Detective, before we go any further on that, I don't think the witnesses have been sworn in, or have they?
They have not.
And Madam Joyce, would you be kind enough to swear all of the witnesses in? I think you normally do it, don't you?
No, Bridget will do
Bridget,
that.
would you be kind enough to swear the witnesses?
Okay. Anybody that's going to speak this evening, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I do.
And when you speak, please state your name clearly. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Detective.
Thank you, sir. Okay, this property is before the board for a status hearing tonight. The owner of this property is DWCLV LLC, and they were mailed legal notice of tonight's meeting on October 20th, 2020. Police-related incidents for the past 30 days total 27, with 0 being nuisance related. I wanted to start off with an update on the front gate that is being installed in the front entrance to the property. Dennis Sitcher, the Regional Director of Operations, sent me an email this Tuesday stating that they are in the final permitting stages for the gate system. I have visited the property several times in the last month, and I have met with the general manager, Mr. Tariq Khan, to assure that all the police recommendations have been completed. The police detail has been implemented for the past 2 weeks, and progress is being seen weekly. For the past 2 weeks, the amount of room visitors has decreased tremendously. Individuals that have been caught trespassing on the property have been trespass warned and have not returned. Management has informed us that since our police presence, problematic clients have checked out and have not returned. After each shift, officers send Officer Jimmy Hayes, who is the detail coordinator. He received an email with the disposition of their night and any actions they have taken. These emails are then forwarded to District Manager, Mr. Rob Powell, who then has the problematic patrons removed from the rooms. Now, that information I just gave to you is all from Officer Jimmy Hayes, who is the detail coordinator. So I got all that information from him as far as what's going on there. The patrons have notified management that our presence has helped the situation greatly, and they appreciate the police being there. The property is in compliance at this time, and I recommend a status hearing for the month of December 2020. And also, the general manager is here tonight in this meeting, Mr. Tariq Khan. So if there's any questions that you might have reference to the hotel itself, he will be able to answer that. Any questions from the board?
Say nothing to say from the board. Is there any, I guess, questions from the public?
Yes, I do actually have a question. This is Corey Gavin So how often has PD been
Mr.
visiting?
Gavin,
that-
Mr. Gavin.
Yeah.
Who are you? What is your relation to the property?
All right, Corey Gavin. I'm a resident at this property. I'm also a federal police officer with Homeland Security. So
When you say
question
you're
I
a
have,
resident of the property, are you a resident of the adjacent property or the property that is the subject of the matter?
no, I'm adjacent.
Please continue.
All right, so question is basically, Detective, from my understanding, you said in regards to PD, Fort Lauderdale PD being there and bringing down and getting rid of some of the bad apples that are there with trespassing, things of that nature. How often you guys are visiting this location on a daily basis?
I believe right now it is 3 to 4 nights that the detail is present there at this time.
Okay, so it's only during the nighttime that they're there?
I think they start off earliest at 7 p.m. That's the earliest they start. And they have regular security, private security during the daytime.
Now, is that private security armed or unarmed?
They are unarmed.
Okay. So in between the 3 and 4 nights that Fort Lauderdale PD is getting there and things of that nature, how long are they staying at this location?
They usually have a detail of 6 hours at a time.
And that'll vary throughout the night.
Correct. They could start at 7, they can start at 9 and work 6. That's correct. It varies.
Okay. So the other question I got is in regards to you saying that many of the bad apples have left the facility. What's constituting who's bad, who's good? Like,
No,
how's this being validated on who's leaving, who's staying, things of that nature?
Well, I would say it's being validated more by the general manager, Mr. Tariq Khan, working with the detail officer at the property. They get together themselves to decide whether or not there's a problem going on with any particular room. And that's when the general manager will have the police officer remove the person from the property.
Okay, so based on that being said, it's only if the individuals have an issue at the room, not on the property?
No, it's both. Anything that's going on at that property, if there's an issue going on, there's a problem, that those officers are there to take care of it.
Okay, but they're only there 3 or 4 nights.
That's correct.
And
But what they're doing right now is they're not making it all the same nights. They're kind of throwing it around the shifts and everything. That way they don't they're not familiar with when we're actually there at all times.
right, they're not setting a pattern.
Correct.
Understood with that. But at the same time okay, I understand that they're varying up their patterns and things of that nature, which is fine. But at the same time as I've witnessed several times, to include last night, drug use being done in the parking lots with the smell of marijuana, which is very predominant in that area. How is this being handled? Because from my history with this place and dealing with it since I've lived here since March, I have come across several issues in regards to this location, in regards to verbal confrontations that have woken people up at 3 o'clock in the morning, to, fights, shootings, things of that nature. I was actually the one that called for the shooting that occurred, 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
Right.
So my question is I understand that with the bad apples in there, if Mr. Khan's having an issue with someone in the room, that's fine. But at the same time, what's alleviating some of the activity that's going on? Because it's a heavily trafficked area.
Right.
There is drug dealing going on, which is prevalent right there. I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out the activity that's going on there.
Yeah. Let me give you an answer to that. If the police are not there working a detail any particular night, and you're telling me right now that, hey, I witnessed a drug, I witnessed this, I smelled this, then you should call the police so we can respond to the property and
Okay.
see if we can deal with it. And I'm going to say one thing to you right now. I don't care if you call 10 times a night, 20 times a night. If there's an issue, make the phone call so we have everything documented. There's a problem there.
Oh, no, and that's perfectly fine. I will do that.
Okay.
Without a doubt. I mean, I'm just looking at, with the activity that goes on there and the lack of presence by, local PD. I mean, I could do certain things in regards to which I have a patrol around back to my residence, things of that nature, just to see what's going on there based on the activity that goes on.
Right.
But so, I mean, and I understand that, and I've seen the notes from last time in regards to signage being put up, things of that nature. Recommendations I would have in regards to that based on activity that's gone on and the gaps in coverage, i.e., you're giving them 1 or 2 days that they could possibly, do something different, change something up, whatever the case might be. How I would recommend additional camera footage from their side of the house to capture any type of activity, to include, shootings, the stabbings, things of that nature. So we have a better platform to investigate activity that goes on, instead of utilizing the camera that's pointed out on this property over there, which did assist to a degree in the shooting that occurred.
Okay. What I'm going to do for you is, does Sarah have your information, your phone number and all that information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I'll be happy to do is next week, I will come out there and meet with you and we'll discuss all this stuff more. And we'll see if we can add some stuff that you want to do.
Okay.
That's not a problem at all.
Yeah, because I mean, my background with Homeland Security, it not only law enforcement, but the biggest thing is we recommend countermeasures to be put in place on federal facilities, federal property, things of that nature. So I could bring something to the table in regards to additional countermeasures that could be added that would be beneficial for all parties.
Okay, we'll talk about that next week for sure.
Okay.
May I say something briefly?
Exactly.
Who is me?
This is Zach. I
Okay.
apologize. This is Zach
Yes.
Colombo. I am an attorney that represents the ownership interests, the owners of the hotel.
Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you, Detective Maniatis. I just wanted to mention briefly that we have, just to address some of Mr. Gavin's concerns, and I appreciate all of his concerns, and I'm glad to hear that he'll be able to speak with you, Detective Maniatis. But just to maybe address some of his specific concerns, Mr. Gavin, we have recently installed new cameras that cover 360 degrees around the hotel. We'd be happy to work with you or whomever with regard to when that footage needs to be reviewed, with regard to relevant incidents going on. And so I just want to address a few of the specific things you mentioned. And then the last thing I would mention about, what's being done with regard to a lot of the people coming in. Again, we are in the final stages of getting permitting for installation of a gate and a fence around the property. And so
Okay, now, is the fence going to be up against the existing fence that's in place, or is it going to be an additional fence that leads up against?
It is going to be an additional fence that goes around the front of the property to prevent drivers from coming into the property to visit hotel guests with no reason, no good reason to be there. And it's going to also prevent people from walking in the areas that are currently sort of open to pedestrian access.
Okay, so here's the other question. So you said you had 360 video coverage around the hotel, that you installed new cameras. One, are they IR?
I'm unaware of that. I'm happy to find that information for you.
Okay, because I mean, here's the thing is, we got to look at certain aspects. Even though you have 360 cameras around that you put on multiple corners, the thing is there any gap in coverage? Is there any place that's dimly lit that would actually black out an area, even though you have a camera? The thing is, the cameras need to have IR capability to illuminate that location. Now, granted, I will say this: the one thing good with the hotel is it has really good lighting around there. So IR would just enhance any type of footage going on. So
Mr. Gavin, we'll address all that next week to make sure we got up to speed on all that.
Okay, and then just one last thing in regards to the camera system and everything. This is hooked to a DVR that's being recorded.
Perhaps Mr. Khan.
Yeah, Mr. Khan, can you respond to that, please?
Mr. Khan, are you there? You might be muted.
There you go.
Yes, it is a DVR.
Thank
Okay,
you,
and how
sir.
long,
Being
and how
recorded.
long is the footage stored for?
Sorry.
How long is the footage stored for?
I'm not exactly sure how long, but I think it goes actually. I think at least 90 days or more, longer.
Okay, now is it being monitored by anyone, or is it something that it's only going to be monitored in a case-by-case scenario?
Well,
Yeah,
the screens are in the front desk, so front desk personnel can keep an eye on the monitors around the property while it's going on, and if there is any incident happens, of course we can go back and check it on the DVR.
And the
DVR.
DVR is located on property or off property?
On property.
Secured or unsecured, or is it in where the person that's working in the reception area has access to?
They have limited access to that.
I'm going to interrupt really quickly. Mr. Gavin, is it okay if you take this conversation with Mr. Khan and Mr. Colangelo? Feel free to reach out to them. And I think you got to say what you were going to say for this purposes of the board here. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up? Not, discussion purposes. You could speak with them after.
No, I mean, everything's going to be security related. So, I mean, everything's going to deal with the
Excellent.
hotel. So,
Okay. Yeah, I would encourage you, please speak with Mr. Khan and Mr. Colangelo offline. And, I think that sounds like they're very willing to work with you, but I appreciate you coming on here.
And I will also deal with him too. Okay, Mr. Gavins?
Excellent. Yep. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else from the public that has anything that they'd like to state or say?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Yep, go ahead. Is it Miss
Betzalel?
Betzalel? Could you just state your name? Oh, go ahead.
Sarah Betzalel, yes.
And you're connected to the property.
I am the property manager for Summer Lake Estates. We're the adjacent property where Corey Gavin lives. Our communities are separated with a chain link fence, and for all intents purposes, they're our backyard. So I've been a property manager here for over 6 years. And this hotel has been not just a nuisance, but a danger to every resident in this community. I personally avoid walking around the community because of this hotel. I have 3 kids, and my goal is to make it home every night. I was on the abatement hearing meeting in October, but I wasn't speaking, but I listened. And I know Detective Maniatis, we've spoken several times in the past 2 years, given the shootings we've had. We've had about 6 of them in the last 2 years. I actually am the one that asked Detective Maniatis to pursue this nuisance abatement. However, I was not made aware of the last meeting until 2 days before the last meeting. And I just want to ask the board, why can't we add the security detail and the gate that's supposed to be going in as a recommendation, in addition to these other 11 items regarding trespassing signs and trash and things like that? Why aren't we putting the most important factors for security of this community on this list? I know that the board was about to make that motion at the last meeting, and at the last minute, Detective Maniatis did not want to add that recommendation, and it was dropped. So 30 days later, I still don't see any security. I am there every day. I drive around the property looking for security. I don't see anyone. I don't see any signage. I mean, if you have it, I'd love to see where it is. I was
there today, and the signage is there. Okay.
I don't see it. Maybe you can point it out.
Sarah, excuse me for a minute. Bruce, would you like to convey to her why the detail was not put up in front of the board? Because the attorney for the, I'll let you explain.
Yeah, here's my recollection of how that occurred. Basically, the recommendations were stipulated to, as was the finding of the property being a nuisance, so that the recommendations could be acted upon by the board. In the absence of a stipulation to the recommendations, it was not going to go forward. The attorney did not have the authority. With that occurring and with the recommendation of the department, an additional recommendation was not made at that time, knowing full well that at any point in time, while the property remains under the jurisdiction of the board the next year, that if there is a continuing problem with nuisance activities brought to the attention of the police department and therefore ultimately the board, that the board at that point can conduct a different supplemental evidentiary hearing to make additional recommendations. Now, to this point, I appreciate the concern that this was not a recommendation that was included, but I haven't heard any suggestion that in fact there isn't an improvement based upon the recommendations that were imposed, the obligations that were imposed and apparently are being followed. So remember, the goal here is not to force security. The goal here is to solve the problem. And if the problem is solved,
Not solved.
well, the recommendation today is that the property is in compliance. I'm not suggesting that I heard that it was perfect, but that it is in compliance. So if my suggestion is, as the recommendation has been made that the property is in compliance, that you too, as a resident of the adjacent property, continue to work with the police department,
Yes.
providing specific information as to specific problems that are not being addressed by the existing obligations.
So I have tried to do that, and that is one of the issues I have is communication. I've reached out to Detective Maniatis and to Mr. Lauderdale a couple of times in the past month. So we've had issues in the past month that involve women getting stabbed, two women that were fighting each other, one stabbed the other, and Miss Amanda, who's on here, will speak more to that. We've had fights on the balconies, they continue. We have a big issue with trash. Basically, they're stealing Winn-Dixie shopping carts. And what they're doing now, instead of returning them, they're pushing it over to the other part of the street so it's not on the hotel's cart anymore. They're just pushing it to the Chevron gas station. So now we have a community that has trash being pushed around to different areas because the hotel doesn't want to be caught not being in compliance. So they're just pushing it off to the gas station corner. It just looks horrible. I have pictures. I've contacted Mr. Lauderdale. I've sent him emails. He did not respond. I don't even know who to contact, actually. I'd like to know who do I contact when I see these things happening, because I'm not getting any responses, and to wait a month.
You need to call the police department. If you have an issue that's going on at that time and you witness something.
For
I'm
trash?
sorry?
Well, respectfully, Sarah, I don't have the answer for trash.
No, for anything that's on the
That's
list.
something in the purview of this
No.
board.
The list, the recommendation list. I'd like to know who I contact when I see a breach of those things that are on your recommendation list. Or do I have to wait 30 days to come back to this meeting to talk about the breach of that list? Who do I?
I would say both things. First, you should contact the police department, and second, be prepared to be placed on the agenda for consideration of an amendment, a modification to the existing recommendation.
I did that. I did. I sent an email to Mr. Lauderdale asking him for that. I said, I'd like to be on the meeting agenda because there are a lot of issues that are still existing. I didn't get a response or a confirmation that that would happen.
Tell me, why did you contact Mr. Lauderdale?
I just don't know who else to contact. He was the
Well,
only.
how did you find out to contact him? That's my question.
Oh, because I contacted after the last meeting in October, I sent Mr. Manatas, Detective Manatas, an email. And instead of receiving a response from Mr. Manatas, I got a response from Don Laundre. That's how I got connected to him.
Well, excuse me, Bruce, I want to just step in. The reason I didn't respond to you, Sarah, is because when I went out of my way to talk with you and come to the property to help with you and try to help and try to do what I could for the property, you decide to send an email that I failed to do my job in bringing this property nuisance abatement. All along, I was trying to get the detectives, the street crime detectives, to work a case at the property. So everything I did wasn't happy for you. So at that point, I'm done talking to you. You can talk to Don Laundre, who's the city attorney. That's why. That's the answer.
Yeah, we've been going back and forth about this abatement hearing for 2 years, and you had an illness, and I didn't get responses from you for 5 months. I don't know what you're referring to.
You know why you didn't get a response? It's because we were dealing with a COVID-19 issue, and the officers weren't out there. That's what was going on at the time, Sarah. So I hate to tell you that's what's been going on. So I really don't want to get further into it.
Well, without a response, I don't see how you expect me to.
Mr. Chairman, may I be heard briefly?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Jolly.
Your concerns. I think the board understands your complaints. This is not going to get resolved tonight, but you need to stay in touch with government. And I always believe in documenting who you've contacted, who you've attempted to contact, when, etc. And this will be something that will be considered. You will be notified of the next board hearing, at which point, if there is a continuing problem, your grievances can be heard at that time, and if appropriate, can take action.
Why aren't my grievances being heard tonight? Because I was told that I need to wait for November 12th.
Thank you, Sarah, for talking. So, and just bringing up what you're saying, we've been listening, and I believe Mr. Fanouf, you had something that you wanted.
I just had a really quick thing. Actually, subsequent to our last meeting, when I realized there was a pending civil case, which I think is something that anybody in the public record could look at, I noticed that you're actually the property manager for the association that's got an active suit against the hotel as well, correct? So I guess I would say you're basically an agent. Your company is an agent of the plaintiff, which actually has counsel. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents, which is that in addition to the resources that have been provided and mentioned here tonight, I would also say you have counsel that's representing the HOA, and you might want to bounce some of these things off of your attorney as well.
He was on the meeting in October, and he wasn't even able to present a picture to the board. That's why I'm on here, because I'm there at the property every day. He's not. My life is at risk every day, not his. And I want to appeal to this board that, things need to get done, and to wait another month every time we have a meeting. In the meantime, somebody can get shot tomorrow because we don't have a gate. I don't even know if the permitting is a month away, 60 days away. What does that mean that we're in the last phase of permitting? When will that gate go up? And what about the detail? When are these detail actually present? Can somebody tell me the times? I never see anybody there.
So
my understanding was that it varies.
Yes. Yeah, it's in 6 hours. 6 hour shifts. Were you on the call? Have you been on the call the whole time there?
Yes,
Sarah?
I heard that the 6 hour shift, but during the day when I'm there, and the last shooting did occur in daylight near children, because my backyard is their backyard. We have a pool where children are and run around right next to their backyard where all this is going down. So in broad daylight, things happen in broad daylight. I don't see any security guards. I don't see anyone. And I drive around. There's nobody there.
Yep. Mr. Jolly, you had something you wanted to say there?
No.
Okay. Very quick question. Go ahead, Mr. Colangelo.
I apologize. I'll refrain. I'll hold off. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hang on 1 second, please. Mr. Khan, are you there?
Mr. Khan.
Okay.
There you go.
Mr.
Yes.
Khan.
Hi, Sam there.
Can you just give Sarah an idea of how many nights and what nights the detail is there, so she has an understanding of that?
They're from Thursday through Sunday. Usually it's be 6 to 7 o'clock, different time they start. But, for 6 or 7 hours, they usually do it for a week.
And you said Sunday, I didn't have the what days?
They are the detailing, right? That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday at this time. Okay, thank you.
In the front
I
or
have
in
a
the back?
question.
Go ahead, Mr. Slotnick. Hold on, Sarah. We'll get to you. Go ahead, Mr. Slotnick.
I have a question for you. If you see something going on and you don't see security on the premise, why do you not call the police right away?
I
Because
will
it's
call the police as needed.
Sorry, I don't. Mr. Khan, I think, was this directed at
If they
Sarah?
trespass, we kick
Sarah.
the people out if trouble in the property.
I'm addressing Sarah.
Okay, Tariq, he was addressing Sarah on that question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank
To
you,
answer
Mr.
your
Khan.
question, this is so constant that if I had to call the police every time I see two people fighting, or if I hear yelling and screaming and bottles being thrown around, I'd be calling the police all day. As a matter of fact, the police are tired of hearing our calls. They're tired of our tenants calling. They're tired of the hotel people calling. They've told me that themselves. We have 2 courtesy police officers living on the property as a result of this. We have security 4 times a week as a result of this, and I still have issues. It just doesn't seem to get resolved. And the only thing that we're asking for the abatement board to consider is mandating that there is security all the time, and there should be armed security all the time until at least this gets resolved, until we get the fence up. We just don't want somebody to get hurt. It's a matter of time until another situation happens where there's a gunshot. We had tenants whose windows were struck and bullets pierced, even though we have hurricane impact windows. That's how powerful those bullets are, that they went right through our tenants' windows. So I am literally afraid to go to work. And I still, 2 years later, I don't see any progress. So maybe if I saw the progress, I'd be a little calmer and maybe I wouldn't feel as afraid. But I circle the neighborhood, I circle the premises, I don't see any change to security. And I really don't know where the permitting is or how long that's gonna take for that security gate. Is there a wall maybe that's gonna be going up? I know that we spoke about that. I don't know if they're working on that or not. I just feel like I'm in the dark, and yes, we do have a court case, but again, these things take time. And in the meantime, people are at risk and children are at risk. And that's why I'm appealing to this board, because I understand you're all volunteers and you know what this is about. And I appreciate that you're all volunteers. I'm a volunteer myself. It's a thankless job, but the purpose here is to protect people, to protect this community. We have families. This is my community, the one I manage, have 4-bedroom units. There are children. There's like 50 children in this community. And we are subject to a hotel that has crime constantly and people stabbing each other in broad daylight. How can this go on? And we can't just keep 30 days later, let's bring it up again, Something needs to be done.
Well, in fairness, and Mr. Foreman, if you will allow me to interject.
Go ahead.
The testimony before the board was that the property is in compliance. And that had to do with the various offenses which were alleged to have occurred. And you've indicated that you have seen some specific things, but I guess the basic question to submit to you is, you're not seeing any kind of improvement. You haven't seen a diminution in the number of offenses, the number of the subject of the original board hearing. I mean, I know you've indicated there was a stabbing between 2 women who were fighting, but is there no improvement?
He mentioned there were 27 police incidents in the past 30 days. What were they?
Right. 27 with 0 that were nuisance related.
How is that possible?
I mean, I'm not quite, I don't think the board's powers are limited in that it controls, it monitors the kinds of offenses which are within its jurisdiction. Well, I'm not, I don't know what the 27 calls were, but that doesn't mean that that the property is not in compliance with the directives that have been issued.
However, the
And
stabbing
Sarah,
was not brought up. Yes.
Sarah, before you speak, Detective, would you be able to just kind of give us a general summary as to some, you know, the nature of those?
Sure, I can do that. Yeah, I'm looking at these calls here, and I have various calls from trespassing. Probably have at least 4 or 5 trespassing calls, which several of them were generated from the hotel, trying to get the people trespassed out, that's what we want. That's exactly what we're looking for. We have hang-up calls. We have an embezzlement. We have suspicious person, a larceny, suspicious vehicle, suspicious person, another vandalism. So, you know, as Mr. Jolly stated, all these calls none were nuisance related. And the only thing I want to add to this is, Sarah, you made a good point, and you said one thing. You said, I know it takes time. We've had this property for 30 days. And in the 30, I'm sorry?
You've had it for 30 days where? We've been
Hang
talking
on.
for 2 years.
Let Mr. Detective finish. Go ahead.
We've had this property under the Nuisance Abatement Board for 30 days. And in that 30 days, we've had the property already implemented a detail back on the property. We implemented better camera systems. They've done a lot of stuff so far in 30 days that I want you to understand it takes time, but it's gonna get better the more we stick with this. That's all. You made it. That one statement you said is it takes time, and that's true.
It's too much time. That's what I said. It's taking too much time because we have children at risk.
Understood, Sarah. And one quick question for me to you is, you had mentioned that there was a stabbing within the last 30 days. Is that correct?
Correct. And Amanda, who's on here, she's actually the Chevron representative. There's a gas station on the corner that has also been impacted because they're also a neighbor of the hotel. And that's why Amanda's on here tonight. We've spoken about what is happening to our neighborhood, and Amanda could tell you about the stabbing as well.
Now, before Amanda, before you speak, Sarah, the stabbing that you're speaking of, was that on the hotel property?
Yes, between 2 of the guests. Yeah.
2 residents, or
Yes.
I guess
Yes.
tenants, however you want to call it.
And I don't have that in my 27 calls whatsoever. I don't know if a call was ever made about it, but I don't have it here.
It was.
Sarah,
I
was
don't know if it was made or not, but I know that people saw the 2 women having an altercation on the platform outside.
Okay.
I know that there was a stabbing, and maybe they did not call it in. That's not surprising. However, the hotel manager should know about it, even if the police don't know about it.
Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, Mr. Khan, if you can just let me know if you do recall a stabbing in the last 30 days that are you aware of?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe Amanda.
Hi,
ahead,
if I
Amanda.
could just jump in. I just wanted
state
to
your
go-
name and then how you're related to the property again, just for the record, and then you can continue. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Amanda Peralta. I'm the manager at the Chevron that is across the street from the hotel. I deal with the residents or guests on a day-to-day basis. I have called numerous times about theft in my store. They come in, they just take things, and then you can see them just walking back to the hotel. As far as the stabbing that Sarah did mention, I did mention it to her. They did not make a call. I was informed by one of the other guests that it is not the first time that it had happened. From what I was told, it was a lover's quarrel between 2 women. They are in a relationship. It happened last week. And when I asked if the police had been informed, they had told me no, because since they were in a relationship, the victim did not want to get the other one in trouble or something along the lines of they just did not want to get the police involved. I'm not exactly sure what happened with that because they used to come in multiple times a day and they used to purchase things from my store. I have not seen them since since I was aware of the incident, which was last week. I'm not sure what happened to them, but that did happen.
Let me just jump in for a minute. If you haven't seen them, I'm hoping it's because the hotel general manager got rid of them. If we're having issues with people, what the police detail is there also is when there's any issue with people at that hotel that they can identify, they get with the general manager at the hotel to let them know so they can remove them from the property. So I'm hoping that those two were removed. I'm hoping.
I'm hoping for the same thing, but I start thinking the other ways. What if something else happened that maybe we just don't know of? This information that I gather, it's because they've started to see me more as a friend than as someone that just works at the store. And that's how I gather a lot of this information. But I am worried that maybe something else happened and we just have not been made aware. That being said, so I heard it being mentioned that there is police detail at night. Are there any plans to increase that to the daytime and the day hours? Because like I said, as far as the trash, they all litter all over my property. I have a car wash that has to be constantly picking up after them. They leave carts from Winn-Dixie and from other stores all over my property as well. On my grass, they leave beer bottles. It's almost a hazard. There's glass bottles all over the place because they seem to think that the floor is a trash can whenever they're done with something. So I would just like to know, will there be police detail being added to the day at some point?
Okay, just to respond to the police detail, we started this 2 weeks ago, so we're gonna keep an eye on and see where we're at with the detail. If the hotel and I think that we need to add more time and more days, we're gonna address that. And Mr. Colangelo is here tonight, who also I deal with him. And if there's an issue where we need to add more days, we'll do that. If we need to maybe switch and have a day shift police officer also there, these are all things that we're going to look into, even though it's only been 2 weeks that the detail's been there. So yes, we'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Foreman, go ahead.
Go ahead, Amanda.
That is something that I suggest, I guess you could say, looking into. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but it is an issue, and there are crimes going on during the day. I've heard all kinds of things in terms of people going into different rooms, stealing things. I've heard of the stabbing. I've heard fights, as someone else had mentioned, multiple things that are happening during the day. And like I said, the theft in my store has continued. I'm hoping that we can pick out the really bad apples and have those people removed. But I do understand it's also a process. So I'm just trying to be patient, but it is an ongoing issue.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Mr. Foreman, I would suggest that you ask if there's any other public comment, and if not, that the matter be closed based upon the determination that the property is in compliance, subject to continuing monitoring.
Agreed. So are there any other, anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this issue? If not, we're going to go ahead and close it, but I'll have it open for a bit here.
All right, Mr. Foreman, that allows you to move to the item 7 on the agenda.
Yep. So let's go ahead and move to our final item, which is going to be board discussion. Is there anything that anyone on the board would like to discuss regarding this or anything else? I just want to say thank you so much, Sarah, for coming. Thank you, Amanda, and everyone else who came. Really appreciate you guys coming and speaking. We are all volunteers and residents in this city, and so we're not professionals at this. I know I'm not. So we want to hear what you have to say. Appreciate you guys all speaking and sharing. You know, I'm taking notes, Sarah, of what you're saying and also of what you're saying, Amanda. I know the detective's here. We really appreciate what the detective and the owner of the property have been doing. I know that you guys are there, and you know, so it's a real concern, especially for you, Sarah, and your kids. I have a son, so I know how that is as well. So let's continue moving forward and trying to work together on this, you know, to see what we can do here. I know that sounds like words right now, but let's just move forward and see what we can do together. And I think, Sarah, moving forward, I know that you've had some communication difficulty, but I continue to try to work with the people who are working on it. You know, those are the routes.
Who should I contact?
So, and quickly, detective, who do you think the best person is for Sarah and Amanda? Say, you know, they see something or something comes up. Who would be the best person for them to speak with? Would it be the attorney? The state?
I mean, for issues of that type nature, yeah, probably be Don Lingerie. But again, I don't have a problem. You can get a hold of me too, and I'll do the best I can.
Yeah. Okay. I would say, yeah, those two routes. And Amanda, I know that you're there and you see stuff. If you would document some of those things, I think that would probably be prudent as well. Just so
Amanda, my email is P Maniatis, MANIATES at
EMAN.
Yeah, MANIATES at fortlauderdale.gov.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The owners have been, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Amanda. We've closed. I don't mean to, you know, be anything, but we've closed the public section for the meeting for now. So I want to respect that. We're going to be here again, I believe, Joyce, in a month.
Our next meeting will be December 10th.
December 10th. So we'll be here December 10th. I would encourage you guys to, you know, I would say record some of those things that you guys are seeing so that it can be presented formally with some backing there as well. And we can see kind of how the activity looks this week. But that's everything from me. I really appreciate everybody coming out. If there's nothing else from the board, then I would like, would somebody go ahead and make a motion to close this meeting?
To adjourn.
Or to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Excellent. Okay. Do we need to do the vote on that, Mr. Jolly, or
It can be a voice vote.
Okay, let's go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And all not in favor, say aye. I don't think that's anyone. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, folks. Have a good rest of the month.
Thank you so much. We will see you all in December 10th. Thank you.
Thank you.